Alright, so I got an idea for a new Star Trek The Next Generation episode. So in it, Picard goes into the holodeck, and Riker's in there, and he's got like just a whole holodeck full of holographic women, just thousands of women, and they're all dressed up like in different things. There's a rabbit, there's a cat, there's a dog, there's a whale, there's a gerbil and a guinea pig and a Ferengi and an android and a starship captain. And so Captain Picard says, Riker, what's going on in here? And then a couple of guys come up. They all look exactly like Riker because Riker made them. And Picard says, which one's the real Riker? And they all raise their hand because Riker made them all think they're the real Riker because he wanted this to be very realistic. So then the captain says, computer, pause program. And then it turns out, well, the real Riker is very good at pausing himself. So Picard doesn't know who he is. And so he says, computer, end program. And all the holograms disappear. And then Riker's just on the floor. He's completely naked. And he says, oh, hi, Captain. I didn't know you were here. I couldn't hear you. And he said, didn't you hear me say, Riker, where are you? He said, no, because I had a bunch of women on top of me. There's giant piles of women. And then Picard would say, oh, that's weird. And then Riker would say, please don't kink shame. And then Picard said, oh, what's that mean? And then Riker says, here, I'll show you. And then he gets up. Remember, he's completely naked. And then he says, computer, give me a bathrobe. And so he gives him a bathrobe. And it's one of those weird short ones. And like you think it's just right up to the thigh. And you think, man, what if like something pops out? But that's not a problem with Riker because there's a holographic thing that covers them up. Anyway, he says, watch, and Riker says, watch this. He says, computer, start program Riker 42568 Alpha 12. And then it starts up, and that's the program with all the women dressed up in different things. And then he says, here, Picard, I think you'd like this. And then an angry old woman comes up to Picard and says, Picard, I don't like you. And then Picard says, oh, that's pretty cool. Because Picard likes it when women are mean to him. Because even though he's a ship captain and he's dominant on the bridge, he likes to be a sub to women. And anyway, he says, all right, Riker, we got a problem. It turns out all the holograms become real. And then Riker says, oh, I know that. I wanted them to be as realistic as possible. And then Picard says, no, you don't understand. They're actually real. They're like sentient beings now. And then what Picard doesn't know is that Riker made every single hologram need sex nonstop. So now they can't turn off the holodeck. Man, they have to give the hologram sex nonstop. And so they're in the briefing room, and Picard says, well, we've got a problem here. There's a whole bunch of holographic women, and they're all incredibly beautiful, and they'll do whatever you want. And we don't know how to handle this. They have to have sex nonstop, and Riker made them all, so what do we do? And then Geordi says, well, Captain, I think I can go in there and solve this problem. And so he runs off into the holodeck as fast as he can. And then Picard says, all right, Riker, looks like you've got yourself a volunteer. And then Riker says, that sounds good, Captain. I think I'll go help him out. And so then Riker runs off into the holodeck. And then Picard says, Troy, what do you think? And then Troy says, I think there's a lot of aroused men on this ship right now. And then Picard says, why do you keep just saying things everybody already knows? Like that time there's some guy yelling and he's really angry. And she says, I sense you're angry. Like what's the point of that? Like we didn't know? You didn't know that somebody yelling really angrily means they're angry? Anyway, she doesn't have anybody in the holodeck because she's a pill. That's what they used to call people that weren't cool. You could say she's buttered popcorn. Is the closest thing you would be able to say today. And then Data says, Captain, I think it would be good for my programming to go in there and see what it's like. And so he gets up and he slowly walks off because he's really excited to go in there, but he doesn't want anybody to know it because he can't feel emotions, but he can. Envy's an emotion, so he can feel emotions. He's just too stupid to know it. Anyway, and so like Picard and Troy are left in the briefing room, And then Dr. Crusher comes in and she says, Captain, why is the biofilters full of stuff? And Picard says, what kind of stuff? She says, you know, the kind of stuff when a man and a woman get together. And he says, you mean sweat? And she says, no. And he says, what? You mean all the women are pregnant? And then Crusher says, Captain, don't you know what sex is? And Picard says, yeah, I know what sex is. Everybody knows what sex is. And then Crusher says, all right, Captain. So you should know what's in the biofilter. He says, yeah, I know. Of course I know what's in there because I know all about sex. I'm the captain. I know all about it. And then Crusher says, well, what are we going to do about it? And then Picard says, well, I just want to make sure that you know what sex is and what's in the biofilters. So you tell me and I'll tell you if you're right. And so she tells him what's in the biofilters. And Picard is just really confused because he has no idea what's going on because he doesn't actually know anything about sex. He's just been fooling around for the last 50 or 60 years. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's the kind of guy that would go into a holodeck to read a book. He can do that in a chair. He says, oh, I'm going to set up my whole day in the holodeck and go read a book on the beach. And there'll be people there. Lots of naked women, but I'm just not even going to look at them. Like, why would you do that? Just read your book in a chair or in a bed. You don't have to take up somebody's valuable holodeck time where they can have lots of women in rabbit costumes running around. Anyway, Geordi, Riker, and Data are in the holodeck, and they're just going at it, just nonstop. And then it turns out that there's a limit to the number of holodeck territories there can be. And when they hit that limit, it overflows and shuts down the holodeck. And so they're just non-stop women floating out of a holographic emitter or door or whatever. Because Riker just can't control himself. He says, "There's more women, non-stop all the time." And even though he pretends he doesn't, at that time he said, "Oh, this is just a fantasy. It's not real. I don't like it." But then he's constantly in the holodeck with fantasy women all the time, non-stop. Whenever he's not blowing on his stupid saxophone or horn or trumpet. I don't even know what it is. That's how dumb it is. That's how little I care about his idiotic interest that nobody cares about. Anyway, so it turns out that they didn't even have to do anything. All they had to do was wait for the women to fill up the holodeck. And then the whole thing shuts down. And then Geordi, Riker, and Data are in there naked. And they say, well, I won't tell if you won't tell. Because even though it's 400 years in the future, being gay is apparently a bad thing still. And then so Data's technically not a man. He's a robot that looks like a man. They don't understand that just looking like something doesn't make you that thing. Like if I wore a computer costume, that wouldn't make me a computer. That would make me a person inside a computer costume. Just says Data is an android that looks like a man, but that doesn't make him a man. Anyway, so they finish up in the holodeck and they come out, and then Wesley's out there and he says, "What have you guys been doing?" But he does it in a really whiny voice because he has to be whiny all the time. And they say, "Oh, well, you've been testing out the holodeck." And then Wesley says, "Oh, I like testing out the holodeck." So he goes in there and then he says, "Start Wesley 420." And the whole thing just fills up with marijuana smoke. And he says, "Whoa, guys, this is pretty chill." And the door's shut and Picard comes by and says, "Well, I guess this episode's all up in smoke." And they all laugh and point at the camera. And it turns out there was a Ferengi in one of the scenes, so the whole episode had to be comedic. Like, why do the Ferengi have to be comedy relief all the time? Like, oh, look at this. We're going to sell these people into slavery, but it's hilarious. It's hilarious that we're going to sell them into slavery. Isn't that funny? Slavery is the funniest thing ever. I'm a slave. That makes it funny. But that's my idea for a Star Trek Next Generation episode. If you know anybody from the former cast or the producers, tell them to contact me and I'll let them buy the idea for $50. Thanks.